Detective City of Angels has 1 to 5 detectives solving crimes in 1940s Los Angeles. I'm going to focus on Classic mode, which puts 1 chisel against 2 or more detectives. There's a co-op mode, as well as one where players compete against the game with no chisel. If you're familiar with role-playing games, the chisel is like the game master. They set up the story and decide the pace by choosing how suspects answer. I'll explain this soon. Anyhow, each case has their own setup, although it's mostly the same. The right side of the board is the day track. Put the marker on the day depending on player count or if given a specific instruction in the case setup. Only the chisel may look at their book. Each detective takes their own book, investigation sheet, mini and board and matching colored bits. Give 1 leverage marker, hat, to the chisel. The chisel puts the leverage markers on their board. The case box contains all the cards needed for the case. The chisel punches out the standees, then prepares to begin. Visit VanRyderGames.com for a thematic introduction. As it's being read, the chisel reveals cards and places standees and markers on the main board. The detective boards are double-sided. Flip to the mode you're playing. On your turn, you'll move an action cube to perform a specific action. Move is straightforward except for one thing. When moving, you can't move to another district without first visiting a border location. Search location earns you a valuable clue or wastes time. Time is precious in this game. Search suspect is similar. I'll explain questions soon. Analyze is basically a way to make a quick buck. Kickback earns you 1 scratch per player but can only be done once a day at orange mob joints. The colored lines on the map separate districts. As you discover clues and suspects, the chisel will flip over case cards at the top and sometimes put new standees out on the board. Sometimes you'll come across something very valuable when searching. These cards will be archived and the detective receives a case card with evidence. The chisel sets an evidence removed marker 3 days later on the day track. The other detectives must decide to either wait to learn what was found or meet up with that detective. Use the detective action. Give that detective 2 scratch, and peek at their case card. If you don't want to chase another player, visit a police station and use the officer action. Pay 3 scratch to the bank to peek at the case card. The final special action is goon, but I'll explain that later. If there's a suspect at your location, you may question them. I'd like to ask D. DiCaprio about Sally Foot. The chisel looks at D's row and sees that there are 2 choices. The black text is the most helpful reply, and the red is the least helpful. The chisel chooses which reply to give by placing the appropriate card in the ARC sleeve so that the intended response is visible. Before the chisel chooses a response, the other detectives must decide if they wish to pay to snitch, meaning listen in on the answer, or not. After the question has been answered, those detectives who bribed a snitch can read the same response. If the detective wants to challenge the chisel, meaning they think the suspect is hiding something, they give a leverage marker. The chisel places it below the suspect if the detective's gut instinct was correct, or places it on the chisel board if the suspect blabbed everything. In the future, the detective may say, "I'm spending my leverage," before using the question action to force the chisel to give that suspect's most useful reply. If the chisel has leverage, they can block that detective's question for the day or block a snitch. I mentioned the goon special action. Spend 2 scratch to force the chisel to answer after blocking. That doesn't mean the suspect needs to give helpful information though. Fill in the top of your investigation sheet to match the suspects and case cards, and fill the left of your sheet with suspect names. As you search and question, write down notes to help you solve the case. You may attempt to solve once before the end. Fill out the suspect card and name, weapon card and name, and motive. Find motives on the back of your detective casebook. The chisel will write only the number of correct items, then hand the sheet back to you. Assuming you haven't successfully solved the case, you'll have 1 less chance after the final day. If you're correct, congratulations. If you're not, well, maybe you're not cut out for the job. Either way, the chisel reads the case summary to the group. Take actions, investigate locations and suspects, and solve the case. That's Detective City of Angels. Play on a dining table. The detective areas are the sides of placemats, the chisel needs a lot of space, and there's a gigantic game board. The theme is intense and pretty dark. Gameplay is a deduction puzzle where every turn needs to be maximized. At the same time, what you're doing is incredibly simple. If they're mystery fans and can handle the narrative, experienced gamers 10 and up could try it, but this game might be better for 11 and 12-year-olds. Our games, including Setup and Takedown, have been around 90 minutes. In our fourth game, I played as the Chisel. This was tricky, especially because there were 3 detectives: Mom, Dad, and Grandma. I easily fooled Mom, getting leverage over her multiple times. On one turn, I blocked her snitch twice, causing her the 6 scratch she worked so hard to get across 2 turns. Dad and Grandma, on the other hand, weren't so easily fooled. Both got close to the answer and successfully snitched and did a great job when questioning. In the end, Grandma was the only one to solve the case. Detective City of Angels has multiple modes. How cool is that? I haven't tried sleuth mode, but competitive and co-op are great, and the cases feel very different depending on if you're the Chisel or the detective. I think I prefer competitive over cooperative because of the additional actions. Bribing, snitching, and so on give you yet another tough choice because scratch is hard to come by, but getting the right information is even harder. The action system works incredibly well. Giving up on something because you have a hunch is exciting, but you need to puzzle out the most efficient way to get to the new location. Is it even worth doing so? Just pay the other player the next time you're in the same space, but maybe that scratch should be used for something more helpful. Should you search the suspect and location? Amazing design. I love the questioning system. The Chisel may want to give you a little push in the right direction, but may instead choose to mislead you. The leverage system is brilliant. There are many cases, each with their own difficulty, unique story, and sometimes even different mechanisms or things to solve. The characters you question also feel different. Some are honest, some are sneaky, and others are just hard to read. You feel like you're dealing with real people, which is incredible seeing as it's just paragraphs in a book and on cards. The game is one of the prettiest I've ever seen. The graphic design is amazing, except for 2 tiny things that I wish stood out more. The letters and the spaces below the cards, and the purple/yellow border separating Hollywood and San Gabriel Valley. Every case we've played, we've had to look online to see if anyone has clarified things. Most of the time they have, but not always. The motor system is okay. I feel it needs a bit of polishing, but I love the idea of it. There are times when there are more motives that make sense than the ones in the casebook. This wouldn't work in sleuth mode, but I'd prefer if players submit the suspect and weapon, but then need to present what they think happened. This would feel more like role-playing, and if your motive is slightly off but the rest of the results were correct, you still came out on top. Detective City of Angels is a brilliant idea that offers tons of narrative and theme, multiple ways of play, and that agonizing feeling of, no, I need more time. I love the game with 4 players, 1 Chisel and 3 detectives, whether it's co-op or competitive. 2 detectives are good, but not quite as enjoyable. Do you like narrative games, mysteries, noir? Then you probably already own this or are at least seriously thinking about it. If you don't like those, you may enjoy the action system and puzzle, but you probably won't get as much out of this. If Van Ryder Games keep supporting this like they have been, tighten up the motor system and flesh out the rules a bit more, this could be one of the best games of all time. It's already phenomenal.